Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here for the first time, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name's Hannah and on my channel I post a lot of videos about anti-MLM. So at the beginning of every video I link a playlist for you. It'll be linked right here and down below. This is my big anti-MLM playlist, over 180 videos on there at this time. And if you like this content, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, liking this video. Those things really help to support the channel and I appreciate you so much for doing that. Today's video is an MLM horror stories. These are personal experiences that people have had with MLM companies. People will send me emails with all different perspectives from all different companies. Maybe people were pitched for an MLM, maybe they saw an MLM in the wild, maybe somebody approached them at a store, maybe they were in the companies themselves and they had some kind of outrageous thing happen to them. Really anything goes. So if you have your own MLM horror story you would like to send in to me and have considered for a video, the instructions for how to do that are in the description box down below. And with that, I think that's all the intro stuff I have for you, so let's get right into the first story. This story says, "Hi Hannah, I wanted to share my story of being not just a client of Optavia, but a coach as well for almost 5 years. Like most people who start the program, they see the incessant marketing from the Optavia coaches, aka distributors, and when you're desperate, you will do anything. I had actually done the program 3 times with the same coach who was a very close friend. Not only was she a close friend, but she was one of the very top leaders. We had known them before Optavia was even a thing and had done life together for years. I started the program and then she would ask me all the time about coaching. I was never interested until I saw how coaching had changed their lives. They were living in a mansion, driving the fancy cars, and taking the lavish vacations. I thought if she can do it, so can I. Little did I realize that they got in super early and their wealth accumulation wasn't from selling Optavia, but having a huge downline of coaches underneath them." Great point. Something that we talk about a lot is that if somebody is flaunting all this wealth that they've made from their MLM, typically the majority of that money is not coming from sales activities, but it's coming from recruitment activities. Meaning that if they did not recruit or if they didn't have a downline of people under them and you only look at the money they're making from sales and commissions, that amount of money isn't very significant. That amount of money would probably not support this lavish lifestyle. So thank you for mentioning that, because it appears like you have this firsthand experience of knowing somebody at the top of an MLM and you know for a fact that they would not be living that kind of lifestyle if they didn't recruit. And that's obviously one of the biggest issues with MLM companies and something that indicates that they're operating closely to a pyramid scheme, if not a pyramid scheme itself. When I started coaching, I was all in and grew really fast. I started making money right out of the gate. Because of my influence and personality, people trusted me, and at the time, I believed in what I was doing. I had lost 65 pounds and was feeling great. I had drunk the Optavia Kool-Aid that says we are saving the world through the program. That people that are fat are unhealthy, and our answer is the best answer. I believed it all until I didn't anymore. My last few years of coaching, I was making 6 figures. I was riding private planes with the top leaders to tropical destinations. People saw me as something special because of my proximity to leaders. It was fun and exciting, again, until it wasn't anymore. I started seeing cracks. I saw leaders that were once humble people living off the dopamine high of being celebrities in this MLM world. Everyone hung on to every word they said. It was like they were gods and could do no wrong. They would tell their downlines to, quote, "do what we did and you can have what we have." But it was never that simple. Yes, I had a team. Yes, I was making money, but my downline was always struggling. And frankly, the rat race of always filling up buckets of new clients and coaches because old clients and coaches would fall off the program or not want to coach anymore became exhausting. You were told to never give up, to just keep going, but I had seen people doing that for 7 years and still not getting to the top like they were told. Fantastic point. First of all, I like your analogy of this bucket with a slow leak. I think of it like that all the time too. That in order to keep yourself afloat and maintain or achieve new ranks, you do have to be filling that bucket of recruits faster than it's dropping off, faster than it's emptying. And I'm sure that becomes exhausting and stressful. And you're saying that you've seen firsthand that there's people who have been in the company for over 7 years and they're still not at that rank that they were promised, and they still aren't seeing this level of success that they hopefully should have achieved by now if it was so easy. And this just goes to show that your success or your rank or your position within the pyramid is not correlated necessarily to how long you've been in the company. You can be in it for 7 years and not make it to the top because it's not related to time spent, it's related to recruits and how large you have the ability to grow that downline. High-level leaders, and I say leaders very loosely, were fat-shaming their relatives' doctors in Facebook posts when they were confronted with the fact that doing that was awful. They basically told people to shut up and unfollow, that they were doing great things in life, and that those that criticized that were doing small things or were jealous. There was zero room for doubt or questions because you would be gaslit. When I stated that I was gaining the weight back, I was gaslit into thinking that it was my fault and not the program's. Little did I know until I spoke to an actual doctor that I had been starving myself with 800 to 1,000 calories a day for close to 4 years, so that even if I ate 300 calories extra of celery, I would gain weight. I had wrecked my metabolism with the program, but again, when I would bring this up, I was gaslit and told that I had addictions, that I wasn't using the habits of health tools, and was encouraged to get back on the 5-in-1 program. You see, in trainings, you are told, quote, if your waistline is growing, your business is shrinking. You're kidding. Actually, you're probably not kidding. That's pretty believable. If your waistline is growing, your business is shrinking. Okay, to finish off your sentence, you say, so the constant pressure to keep the weight off was heavy. And I just have to pause right there because that is the sad truth of it. I really hate this phrase. It's kind of disgusting to me. However, if you're in a company like Optavia where the product you're selling is weight loss programs, you do kind of have to be a product of the product, as it's called. And if this is something you're trying to sell and make a commission on and recruit other coaches to be involved with, you do kind of have to set that example for yourself. So as sad as it is, yeah, if you're not losing the weight, if you're not being a product of the product, if your waistline is growing, then how can you expect people to be interested in what you're selling? Or how can you expect them to join your team and become a coach too? And I've made this point in a few other videos specifically pertaining to Beachbody and Optavia, where I'm sure there is this continual pressure on the coaches to constantly be losing weight and constantly be having results to showcase. A big way that you market these kinds of things is before and after photos, transformation photos. And I've talked about this in the context of Beachbody specifically, where these coaches are just doing one Beachbody program after another. And the expectation is that they start the program and they look a certain way, and then they end the program and look completely different. So what does that do to your body, to your health, to your metabolism, to constantly be on a diet or constantly engaging in some kind of workout program where you're expected to be continually changing your body in such a drastic way that hopefully engages people and makes them want to buy it? I just can't imagine how that's healthy, either physically or mentally, to be thinking that you need to always be changing yourself if you want to make sales and make money. If your waistline is growing, your business is shrinking. Dang. Coaches were on and off the 5-in-1 plan all the time. And when I called that out, I was gaslit. My upline knew I was going to leave the business eventually and kept asking me why I was still coaching. Honestly, I was just taking my residual income and waiting for the right time to leave. When I was unfriended on Facebook by my close friends and then removed from all coaching pages and client pages before ever officially resigning, I finally decided that enough was enough, and I realized that the program wasn't about health. It was about making people money. I left a 6-figure business because it didn't align with me anymore. In fact, I saw it doing more damage than good, and those at the top were living the high life. At that point, I left and spoke out. After speaking out publicly, I got a cease and desist from Optavia. I was told to take down a publication that I had put out. I also had a different Instagram that I had never used for the business, and I talked openly about diet culture. They found that profile and told me to take down several posts. I hired a lawyer because I wasn't going to be bullied into being silent, especially when in the publication and my Instagram posts, I never mentioned the name of the company. It was all ambiguous. I agreed to take down the Instagram posts, but was not going to back down on the publication. That's when my former close friends and direct upline took to their Facebooks and did live streams about my publication. They discredited me, said that I was lying, alluded to me having addictions, gaslit me by saying that it was my fault I was having weight gain issues and not the program's fault, or at least part of the fault. People that commented in agreement with me had their comments removed and they were blocked from their pages. Even my own husband, who backed me up, was immediately blocked. People were commenting that I was being used by Satan and that I was jealous, I was lying, that I was a broken person, and that my accusations were a ploy of the enemy, referencing Satan. That God would destroy me, that my story was ungodly to make me feel better about myself, and it goes on and on and on. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and witnessing. And this right here is what we call information control. This is something that's relied on heavily in cults to control the information that the members are receiving and ensuring that they don't receive any conflicting information from any outside or bad sources, aka you. You used to be in the company, you left, you're starting to speak out, and now they're trying to control the narrative and say, don't listen to this person. She's jealous, she's lying, she's broken. All while making sure they're controlling the information that's shared in their comment section. Blocking people, deleting comments, making sure that the only comments that are being left are in support of the message they are sending. That's wild. That's information control at its finest. But they're doing it as a defense mechanism to make sure that the people seeing this live stream and commenting, those who are likely in their downline, don't see any of that bad or negative information that might convince them to quit. Because why? Remember the bucket with the slow leak. You have to make sure that you're recruiting at a faster pace than people are dropping off. If there's this big bombshell of an Optavia coach who was successful in the company who decides to quit and is now speaking out against the company, that is huge. That is really compelling and convincing to those still in the business opportunity. And that's the information that these high-level leaders want to protect their downlines from. They don't want them to have access to your testimony, because if they do, they might quit, their downlines shrink, their paycheck goes down. The motive behind all of this kind of behavior is money. Then another high-level leader decided to mock me in a post with a reference to an MLM Karen who left their MLM. These top-level leaders, and again, I use that reference so loosely because in my opinion, they're not leaders, they all went on the defense. Maybe it's because I was a close trusted friend, maybe it was because I was a high income earner in a high rank, maybe it was because no one had ever publicly spoken out about their true experience due to the looming potential litigation from the company. It could be all of that. The biggest thing though is that at an event a couple months later in front of a group of thousands of people in this Optavia downline, one of these high-level leaders used a screenshot from one of the posts that I took down in my agreement with Optavia and their cease and desist, and used it in a presentation to mock the message I was portraying in it about diet culture. Used the exact post that I was asked/told to take down to mock me and my message. I couldn't believe it. That is so dirty. And again, using you as the example of the enemy, as the outsider, of someone who's not to be trusted because they want to control that information so heavily out of desperation to keep people in the company. At this point, I'm so glad I left. I gave up so much, not only leaving, but speaking out. I lost friends. People blocked me on socials because they couldn't see my value anymore outside of the business because I didn't agree and spoke out. My upline told me when they knew I was going to leave at some point to, quote, do no harm. Basically, go away quietly because they knew the influence I had and still have. I'm one of the first coaches to take a public stand against Optavia, and they don't like it. They especially don't like it because the criticism is coming from someone with influence and a high level of trust with people. Since sharing my story, so many coaches have reached out to me thanking me for sharing my story because they too feel the same way I feel. I'm not alone. I sacrificed friendships to tell the truth about what really goes on and what the program itself did to my body. Again, my story isn't unique at all. I was just the louder voice that I hope others can hear. Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Just because you are one of the first or the loudest to speak out does not mean that this is an isolated experience. And in a sense, that's what I'm hoping to do with these videos as well, is to showcase these experiences so that other people who have experienced the same thing don't feel so alone, or that they can take comfort in the fact that what they have thought were their own failures aren't really failures at all, that they are one of thousands of victims of the multi-level marketing business model. So I commend you for sharing your story, not only here in this video, but also in this publication that you had and on that other Instagram account, because you are making a difference and you're getting the message out there, and you're in a uniquely powerful position because you were successful in the company, right? You did make significant money and you were kind of up there towards the top with these high-level leaders. It's not really like they can say that you're just disgruntled because you didn't find success or because you didn't make money in it. They don't have that defense against you. You did make money from it. And you left not because you weren't successful, but because your moral compass was steering you in a different direction. I'm so appreciative for stories like yours. It's incredibly powerful, and thank you for sharing. This one says, "Hi Hannah, this is a very heavy story, so please give a trigger warning for child death. Please keep me anonymous because this is a well-known story in our area. All names have been changed. This story story is about a family that we know very well. The mother is a long-term Mary Kay Hun. She has 2 kids with her boyfriend. The son, Cody, is 8, and they also had a daughter, Miranda, who passed away at age 4. This story is about Miranda's death. For background, Miranda was born with several health conditions, but the most important one was megacystis microcolon-intestinal hypoperistalsis syndrome, or MMIHS. I'm sorry if I pronounced any part of that incorrectly. I just spent way longer than I'd like to admit trying to figure it out. I may have still said it wrong anyway. This affects the smooth muscles in the body like the digestive tract and bladder. She could not eat food through her mouth, poop, or urinate on her own. She received all food through TPN, which bypasses the GI tract. Due to this way of eating, it put extreme stress on her liver and other organs. We were told she would need a multi-organ transplant at some point to continue to live. She was in and out of the hospital frequently her whole life, and she saw a team of specialists in Pittsburgh, 4 hours away from home. The average life expectancy for MMIHS is 3 or 4 months, so we were very lucky to have had the 4 years we had with Miranda. I just wish we had more time. The Hun exploited her daughter for sympathy sales her entire short life. She was always posting medical pictures of Miranda and pushing the business, saying it was for medical bills. She brought her products and pitched the business at every family event and even her boyfriend's work events. There was a lot of social pressure to purchase. We would get glares if we refused to purchase, even if we couldn't afford it. The Hun even coordinated events and fundraisers in the community to raise awareness and funds for MMIHS and Miranda's medical bills. I didn't know what an MLM was back then, so I thought this was wonderful since MMIHS is so rare. Now I know that she exploited her daughter's MMIHS to connect with other parents in the same situation, not to bond and provide support, but to rope them into her downline and manipulate them at a very sensitive time in their life. When these mothers were supposed to be focused on keeping their very sick babies alive, they were instead shilling Mary Kay. Last summer, Miranda was in the hospital more often than usual. Things got worse very suddenly in September. She was rushed to Pittsburgh, and the family was informed that she would need at the very least a liver transplant before she left the hospital. Best case scenario, a multi-organ transplant. The team was not very optimistic about getting a transplant in time and estimated that Miranda had 2 weeks left at best. The team asked the family to bring Cody in to say goodbye to his sister in case she did not get a donor in time. This is really heartbreaking. All the MLM stuff aside, I can't even imagine what this must be like to go through something like that, having a sick child and being told that they have 2 weeks left to live. That just feels world-shattering to me. A few days later, the Hun left the hospital to go to a Mary Kay beach retreat, knowing her daughter was likely dying in the hospital. During this time period, she was posting constantly about how thankful she was for the business, traveling, and all the beach attraction marketing nonsense. Her boyfriend would repeatedly call and text to beg her to come back to the hospital and be with Miranda. Miranda would cry for her mom for hours, not understanding where Mama was. The Hun ignored all of the messages until a doctor from the team finally called her. The damage to her organs was too severe for her to recover. Miranda had to be taken off the transplant list. The team estimated that she had 2 days left. I just need to take a minute to let this fully process what you're saying. That this Mary Kay distributor has a literal dying child in the hospital, and her priorities lie with going on a Mary Kay retreat. This just doesn't even feel real to me. I'm kind of completely disassociating from it. I don't think I can completely feel any kind of emotion towards it because it just seems so unfathomable. I'll be damned if my daughter is dying in the hospital and I find anything on the planet Earth better to do. Yeah, I have no words for it. I don't even know what to say. The Hun finally left the beach early and went back to the hospital to be with her daughter. She spent Miranda's remaining hours posting about the freedom to be able to work in the hospital and be with her family. She was really pushing sympathy sales, saying Miranda needed the money for an upcoming transplant as soon as they found a donor, knowing it was already too late for that. Excuse my language, I never curse in my videos, but this needs the emphasis. Are you kidding me? This woman knows that her daughter is going to die within a matter of 2 days. She knows that she's not on a transplant list anymore. She knows there's not any hope left, I guess you could say. And she still has the nerve to ask for sympathy sales and ask for money because she wants her daughter to be on the upcoming transplant list, even though she knows that's not a possibility for her. I just feel the need to reiterate this to make sure I'm getting this all straight. I don't know that I've ever seen somebody stoop so low before. She posted several pictures of Miranda in her sensitive state with tubes, wires, and machines all around her. This really bothered me. Miranda wasn't old enough to consent to this, and I know if my mother did this to me, I'd be mortified. Some friends thankfully convinced the Hun to take these sensitive posts down after Miranda had passed. She took a week off of social media, then she got pressured by the upline to share her struggle, and she went right back to posting. After Miranda died, the family started to distance themselves from each other. The Hun goes into her office to sell, the boyfriend goes to the garage to work on the car, and Cody is by himself. He is too independent for his age and he's not getting the attention he needs. The Hun keeps talking about having another baby. She says she feels bad that Cody doesn't have anyone to play with. Some of us have tried to gently tell her that you don't make time for Cody now. How would you make time for a helpless newborn? I wanted to share this story because of the alarming behavior of the Hun and the lengths Huns will go to maintain the business, putting it above everything else, including their own children. Part of me thinks running to the beach might have been an avoidance coping mechanism. The other part of me knows that I would never abandon my child on their deathbed. Oh, dang. Okay. I've been trying to hold it in this whole story and I can't hold it anymore. Dang it. I really didn't want to cry. This is just so wrong. It's so wrong. It's upsetting. And all I'm thinking about is if my own daughter was, God forbid, in the hospital, dying, told that she has 2 days left to live, and I'm not with her. Like, I just can't understand how anybody would think that that's okay. I know that some people in MLMs prioritize the money, prioritize the business opportunity above everything else, but this, it's so vile. It's so upsetting, and I don't know what to say to it. I'm interested in what your thoughts are. I've wanted to write this story for a while, but I had a hard time wrapping my head around the facts and my emotions. This is very healing for me. Thank you for all you do. Well, unfortunately, I don't feel like I'm offering any better insight into it because I'm also getting wrapped up in my emotions in a way that I was not expecting. There's just no excuse for it, and I can't explain it. I can't justify it. I don't even know what kind of commentary to give because it's so wrong. That little girl deserved to have her mom with her, and the fact that she chose a Mary Kay event is just like, it's unbelievable. I feel sick. I feel sick about it. I really do. This is something that's probably going to keep me up at night. I'm going to be thinking about this story for forever. I will say this is the epitome of an MLM horror story. This is so shocking, foul, vile, sickening. I just feel like there's nothing I can say that would be insightful enough, respectful enough. There is nothing I can do to spin this in any kind of positive light. So what I think I just have to do is move on to the next story. My heart is broken for that poor girl. My heart is broken for this family who lost their daughter. And my heart is broken over the fact that this woman's thought processes are so warped that she thought that that was an appropriate decision. Thank you for writing in this story, and I'm gonna give myself a few minutes to recover from that. All right, so for the next story, I did kind of scan through this one a little bit, and I can tell you that this is a little bit more lighthearted. I think we could all use that after the last story, so here we go. Let's take a deep breath, collect ourselves, and here's a bit of a lighter story. It says, "Hi Hannah, my name is Rebecca. To start, congratulations to your family in welcoming your baby girl. I hope you're ready for this MLM horror story, so buckle up because it's a doozy. When I was 16, I worked at a pretzel place in the mall. One of the managers at my work brought in a catalog for Perfectly Posh. I looked through the catalog and being the naive 16-year-old that I was, I wanted to sell. Don't ask me what was going through my mind because I'm not sure either. My mom said no, she didn't want me to sign up for a pyramid scheme, but 16-year-old me thought my mom didn't know anything. Stupid, I know. At the time, if you were under 18, you could sign up to sell Perfectly Posh with parental consent. Parental consent consisted of a parent typing their name in a box and saying that they are okay with their minor being a rep. I think you know where this is going. I typed my mom's name into the box and checked a box, and there I was, a rep for Perfectly Posh. Since I just signed up under a random rep, I didn't have an upline per se. So I joined some Facebook groups for Perfectly Posh reps, and there were people in the groups that were somewhat high up in the company. When I say high up in the company, I mean they were making training videos for the Perfectly Posh Academy. I tried my best to sell to coworkers, classmates, teachers, etc. I was able to sell a little, but not much. At one point, one of my friends ordered a soap bar and she had an allergic reaction to the bar. We knew this friend had an allergy to Red 40, but on the ingredients, we didn't see anything that she would be allergic to. I reached out to customer service and asked if she could get a credit to try another soap bar since she couldn't use the one she purchased. The bars were $10 before tax, so they credited my account $10 for her to use. This is where 17-year-old me thought I was a genius. I'm not gonna say what I did wasn't wrong. I accept what I did was not good in any way, shape, or form. But again, I was 17 and I thought I was invincible. I noticed in the Facebook groups that people would complain about the site being laggy or glitchy around 7 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, which makes sense because a lot of reps would hold parties and then try to place their orders for their customers at this time. But I was trying to place an order at 7 p.m. Friday night to try and use my friend's credit as I was ordering her replacement bar. I hit the button to use the credit and the page refreshed. The page said I still have a $10 credit to use, but it also removed $10 from the total. Usually when you would use a credit, it would subtract it from your total and say that you no longer have that credit to use. For that order, I think it might have been around $100. I just kept hitting the use credit button over and over, and next thing I knew, my order was free. I thought maybe they would catch it and I could tell them that I was just trying to use the credit once and the site was very laggy and then pay for the order if they needed another form of payment. A week later, the order showed up at my door and no questions were asked. As a 17-year-old, I saw dollar signs, as I couldn't afford to have much inventory on hand and it's hard to make samples or give your opinion on things when you haven't tried it. I tried this method again a few weeks later. I put a bunch of stuff in my cart, waited until 7 p.m. on Friday or Saturday, and just kept using the same $10 credit as before. The credit was never deducted from my account. I got another order for free using this credit. This is the point in the story when I thought I was an invincible genius. I talked to my boyfriend at the time, now husband, and my best friend into signing up under me so that I could order stuff through their accounts the same way I was ordering through mine. I told my friend I would give her some of the commission I would get from the orders. So you're setting up like a whole sneaky operation here. The more and more that we ordered, the more extreme the orders got. At one point, we were putting $700 of product in the cart and using the credit to make the orders free. Orders would show up, we would get the commission, and we thought we would never get caught. I have to say, for a 17-year-old and for being in an MLM, presumably for your first time, this isn't okay. This is definitely not allowed, but it's kind of savvy that you found this glitch in the website and you kind of had the thought process of like, okay, if I can recruit other people under me and then they make purchases, I can get a commission, even though none of us are spending any money at all. I'm just making money. I mean, come on, super not allowed. I understand that, but also I'm kind of getting a kick out of the fact that you had this whole plan in your mind and then you executed it and you were successful at executing it because of a glitch on the Perfectly Posh website. What are the chances? One day I noticed my rep account was locked. I couldn't sign in, so I reached out to one of the people in the Facebook group and they said that they would ask about my account. She responded and said that someone was going to contact me from the company. I got a call one night from an out-of-state number. I usually ignore them as I'm a millennial with bad anxiety, but I answered. It was someone from Perfectly Posh telling me that they know I have been stealing, and of course I denied it. They asked me to provide bank statements showing that I had paid for the orders. I told them it would take me a little bit more time to gather that information, so I was able to get off the phone with them at that time. At this time, I knew we were caught. After debating on what to do, I told my mom and she would talk to the lady when she would call. My mom made a deal with them that if I showed the IT people how I did it, they wouldn't press charges. They called me at 4 p.m. Eastern time. The company was based in Utah, so there was a time difference. On a Monday to show them how I did it. They had me download a screen sharing application so they'd be able to see my screen. I had never done the ordering through a computer, so I wasn't sure that it was going to work. Of course, it didn't work. There wasn't enough traffic on the site to make it lag. I told them that I would use my iPad or iPhone to make the orders, so then they FaceTimed me on my phone and asked me to hold my phone so that they could see my iPad screen as I tried to place the order. Again, it didn't work. I told them I would wait until 7 p.m. on a Friday or Saturday to order, but they wouldn't be in the office when that time rolled around, and they could only watch me do it at this time. After I wasn't able to show them how I did it, they told my mom they would be pressing charges as I couldn't show them how I did it. Once my mom was off the phone with the company people, she said, "Get the product you still have and we're gonna see how much it would be to ship it back." It was thousands of dollars of product at this point, and as you can think, the shipping was going to be a pretty penny to ship from Pennsylvania. At this point, the company would not tell me how much they were accusing me of stealing, but they were saying it was tens of thousands. I had the packing slips from the orders, and I knew how much commission they had deposited into my bank. So me, being a future engineering student, I sat down and I did some math and determined exactly how much all the orders totaled. I think I calculated like $2,500 worth. I can't remember as this was almost 10 years ago. It was definitely not tens of thousands of dollars like they accused me of. After I shared with my mom how much I calculated, we got a lawyer, as $10,000 is a lot more than $2,500. Again, I acknowledge it is stealing and I shouldn't have done it, but we can't change the past. We talked with the lawyer and put down the $5,000 retainer fee. The lawyer had several aspects to get this dismissed, one of them being that I was 16 when I signed up and my mom didn't give parental consent. I signed my mom's name, therefore the contract was invalid to begin with. We heard one more time from the Posh people and my mom said, "You can speak to our lawyer," and gave them our lawyer's name, phone number, and email. This was the last time we heard from them. A year had gone by since we last heard from the Posh people, and I asked my mom if she had heard from our lawyer. We never received an invoice for actions he had taken. Usually when a lawyer makes a call or email in regards to your case, they will send you an invoice saying the date, phone call with whom, subject, how long, etc. Which means that we haven't been billed and he hasn't used any of our retainer to work on this case. My mom was still nervous to ask about getting our retainer fee returned as she didn't know the statute of limitations on something like this. 5 years later, my mom and I went to lunch and I asked her about the lawyer. We still had not received an invoice for any of our lawyer's time. At this point, I was 21 or 22 and I told my mom that I don't think they can charge me now because I'm no longer a minor and it's been 5 years. My mom finally asked for her retainer back and we received all $5,000 back. At this time, I looked to see if I was still on the website as a consultant, and sure enough, there is my profile picture still on the website as a consultant. As I'm writing this story to you, I tried to look at the website to see if I was still there, but to my surprise, but not to my surprise, Perfectly Posh is no longer in business. Here are some articles I found if you want to share them as well. Sure, I can link them below. Thank you for taking the time to read my very long and embarrassing story. But because of this happening to me, I've steered clear of MLMs and I've been against them ever since, which explains how I stumbled upon your channel. My goodness, I kind of love this story because it's very non-traditional. It's not like anything else we usually share on this channel, in the sense that the MLM didn't play you, you played the MLM for sure. They didn't screw you, you kind of screwed them, which like you said, it's not allowed, it is illegal. This is stealing from the company, but nothing ever came of it. And I wonder if that is because of that legal loophole with the contract and the fact that you were underage and you did forge your mom's signature. I could imagine that that case would be pretty hard to uphold in court, and so they probably just didn't even bother with it. I appreciate that you recognize that you were in the wrong. I just want to make that clear that we're not endorsing this kind of behavior, right? I'm just saying it's kind of entertaining. It's kind of funny because typically it's the MLMs that are screwing over the members. But because of your sneaky 17-year-old brain and finding this loophole and this glitch on the website, you got thousands of dollars in product for free and you made commissions on it. And you got your $5,000 retainer fee back from the lawyer. So that's pretty hilarious that you scammed an MLM company out of thousands of dollars and never really had to be held accountable for it. Again, not endorsing this, not endorsing this. Don't do this, people. But it does make for a very entertaining story. Thank you for writing this in. This story says, "Hello, Hannah. Congratulations on becoming a mother. I hope you and your daughter are doing well. Due to the nature of this story, please keep my name anonymous. I previously submitted a horror story, but I realized I have another encounter with an MLM experience. Sorry for the long story. I should throw in a content warning for exploiting young children. Growing up, and even to this day, I have an aunt who sells Scentsy. Let's call her C. She climbed the ranks and has been a superstar director, I think this is what they're called, which is either the highest one or one of the highest ranks in the Scentsy business plan, for years. For some context, this aunt lives in Washington State while my family lives in Utah. Each summer we would travel up to the Vancouver, Portland area where my mom is from. This was our annual summer vacation and I loved seeing my family that I didn't get to see very often. My sister and I are close in age and C has some boys that are a few years younger than us. They always wanted to hang out and play with us, so C would ask my mom if we could come over to play with them. I wasn't really interested in the same things as my younger cousins, and each visit was pretty boring. Almost every time my sister and I went to go play with our cousins, my aunt would leave for hours at a time. I was old enough to babysit the kids and watch after my younger sister, don't worry. C would say that she had to run some errands and would be back soon. I'm not sure what her definition of soon was, but it would be hours and hours before she would come home. When she would return, she would simply call my mom to come pick us up. Later on, I realized that she was at different craft fairs or making deliveries to her downlines. She would use my sister and I as free babysitters without asking us for years. It got to the point where I wouldn't want to see or talk to her because I knew that she would use her kids to pressure my sister and I into coming over to play. There was one year where she did ask us to babysit, and that she would bring us back any ice cream we wanted as payment. I hesitantly agreed. After hours of being gone, she came back with one tub of ice cream for all of us to share. I was pretty hungry and I was excited for the promised ice cream. She took out some bowls and spoons and proceeded to only give us one spoonful of ice cream. And by a spoonful, I literally mean a bite of ice cream. When I had asked for some more, she said that she needed to save it for later and she wouldn't let us have any more. After that experience, I tried to get out of going to their house. And eventually I was old enough that I didn't connect with young boys as much, so I would hang out with my mom. The same story didn't pan out for my sister, although she genuinely liked being at their house. C would constantly be working and hustling, as she called it. She would always be talking to someone on the phone, be messaging someone, or out making deliveries. She sadly started to neglect her kids and wouldn't pay much attention to them. She had been so stressed about keeping her rank that she would easily snap at her kids. And that is something that's really unfortunate that doesn't get talked about enough in this whole circumstance of working from home and working from your phone in an MLM. And that is, if you are able to work from your phone or work from anywhere, you're going to be kind of expected to do that or pressured to do that, whether that's an internal pressure or an external pressure placed on you by your uplines or by deadlines coming up in the business, like you have ranks or sales volumes to hit by the end of the month or something. And it's pretty contradictory because you're supposed to be working from home so you can spend more time with your kids, but the exact opposite kind of tends to happen. I'm just imagining the scenario where you are home with your kids all day and they're over here doing their own thing, and here you are with your face in your phone trying to make sales, trying to further yourself in the business. And that's not spending time with your kids. You're there with them, but you're not spending time with them. And as much as I hate to say it, I also work from my phone or from my computer, and I work from home, I work for myself, I work on social media, here on YouTube, and I have run into this issue myself before where I'm there with my daughter and we're playing sleeping, but here I am on my phone answering emails, thinking about my next video, worrying about, okay, tonight after she goes to bed, I have to film, so I have to get ready. What can I be doing right now to make that process smoother so I can be done filming earlier and go to bed earlier? It's a real thing when you work from home while spending time with your kids. Like, the two things don't really work together, in my experience at least. And I've had to be really intentional about setting some boundaries and saying, okay, I'm allowed to do YouTube work while she's napping, after she's down for the night. Because I was finding myself in this situation where I was there next to her, but I was not present. And having that own experience for myself now does kind of paint the whole MLM promise in a different light for me, because I know firsthand how that really can't work. In some ways, I almost think it might be more desirable if you're going to have a job to have that job be outside the home. So you can leave, you can go to your job, do your job, be focused on that. And then when you come home, your kids have your undivided attention and that's all you're focusing on. And you're not worried about what's happening at work because that's a separate thing from your life at home. But with an MLM, and honestly with YouTube, those lines get really blurred, and there is a lot of pressure throughout the day to kind of split your attention and try and do both things at once when you really can't. So you saying that she wasn't paying as much attention to her kids and that all this stress was kind of making her irritable, I can relate to that, unfortunately, and it's something I'm working on. But just keep that in mind, that this promise that MLM reps have for you, that this is going to be the life of your dreams to be able to work from home and be with your kids, it might not be the ideal situation for everybody. She convinced my mom to host a few parties. My mom did like Scentsy products, but if she tried buying regular wax melts, C would get upset with her for not buying her products. Aside from her going to craft fairs and cold messaging, she heavily used Instagram and Facebook to reach new customers and potential downline members. She would post anything and everything on these sites. She would document her day and would constantly talk about Scentsy and how much she loved the products. C would also post constantly about her story and how poor her and her husband were and how scared she was to start this business. She had a lot of followers and interaction with her content. She would constantly post about where she was and what she was up to. Around 2013-2014, she had a baby and we were all so excited. She posted constantly about her baby and would talk about how Scentsy products are baby friendly. Content warning, she would go as far as to post her young child naked on social media. The young child would be out in a kiddie pool or taking a bath, but apparently C thought this was appropriate content to post on her pages. Many of our family members expressed to her how this could really damage her child, but she never listened to us. I hate to think of what could have happened to her and her family. In addition to what has already been said, C had made some very close friends through Scentsy, one of which was a married man with many kids. Their friendship grew closer and closer to the point where this guy's wife filed for divorce because she thought that he was cheating on her with C. I'm not sure if they did have an affair, but due to their time commitment to Scentsy and the amount of time they had spent together, I wouldn't be surprised. Recently, as in literally 2023, her husband has quit his very stable job and has decided to do Scentsy as well. He now constantly posts about Scentsy and the wonders it has done for his family. He talks constantly about how amazing this business opportunity is and how excited he is to join the Scentsy family. From watching extensive amounts of your videos and learning more about the MLM schemes, I know he will never be as successful as she is, although I'm sure that is his goal. He went to a boot camp to learn more about the company and how to recruit. I feel this is a dangerous and slippery slope to be on, especially as they have recently become foster parents and have adopted 2 kids. To my knowledge, they are entirely financially dependent on Scentsy for their income. Because both of them are now a part of Scentsy, they have cut all the haters out of their life and don't really talk to or hang out with our side of the family. They have isolated themselves to their Scentsy community. Thank you for enduring this long email and thank you for sharing these experiences. I am as anti-MLM as ever. That is pretty alarming to me to hear that both people in this marriage are quitting their jobs and doing Scentsy full time. I obviously would never, ever, ever in a million years recommend that anybody be solely financially dependent upon an MLM company for multiple reasons. One of them being that to some degree, your paycheck is dependent upon your rank and dependent on how stable that downline of people underneath you is. And that is terrifying, to be dependent upon other people for your own paycheck. That's not something that's really in your control. So that kind of means that to an extent, your paycheck is not in your control either. Of course, there's certain things you can do, but if you're reliant on like a team sales volume each month or a certain number of recruits each month, that's a very unstable financial position to be putting yourself in. And the second reason I think this is very, very irresponsible is that MLM companies can go under at any time. They do, and they have. If Sensi's compensation plan is looked into legally and they find it to be operating as a pyramid scheme, that company can dissolve. It can disappear overnight. Or sometimes MLM companies decide to go a different direction and they decide to close down the MLM aspect and they decide to sell retail. Something similar to this just happened with Beauty Counter. They didn't decide to close down the MLM side, but they started to sell their products in Ulta stores. I made a whole entire video about how that is terrible for the reps in the company. If people can start to buy your MLM products in retail stores, that is like a death sentence for your MLM business. But that is a massive decision that Beauty Counter decided to inform their reps about via email on a random day and time. Hey, by the way, just so you know, we're gonna be selling Beauty Counter in Ulta stores now. Okay, good luck with that. Good luck keeping your client base. It's these kinds of things that the company themselves can just decide to do at a moment's notice, and you have to suffer the consequences of that as the rep. Because it's not your own business. You don't hold any decision-making power or any stake in this company. So quitting your stable jobs to do this full-time, especially when both people in the marriage decide to do that, and now both of their incomes are unstable, like that is just so financially irresponsible. And they have their own biological children, they are foster parents, they have adopted children. You have a family to be thinking about, you have kids who are depending on you. Abandoning that stability to pursue a pyramid scheme full-time has got to be one of the worst financial decisions you can make, in my opinion. And I'm really sad to see at the end of your email that you're saying that they've cut out all the haters and they don't really talk to or hang out with your side of the family anymore. Very unfortunate, but also very common. If you're not actively and vocally in support of what they're doing, then they tend to kind of cut you out or not give their time and attention to you because you're not furthering them in their goals. All of this is very sad to see, and unfortunately, now that they're both in Sensi, I just feel like they've dug themselves so deep into it that it's going to be really hard for them to get out. And I worry that the straw that's going to break the camel's back is they're going to experience some kind of financial ruin from this. It's hard for me to see how this could possibly end well for them, and that's really unfortunate. But all of this is a testament to how deeply a person can fall into an MLM, and I appreciate you sharing your story. And with that, my friends, that's all the stories I have for you for this MLM Horror Stories video. This one was really heavy at times, and I appreciate you kind of sticking with me through my emotions and kind of how I was overcome by them. I wasn't expecting that. These stories do get screened to an extent before I read them in a video, but I don't read them start to finish. And so when I was reading that, I was kind of processing it in real time. So thanks for hanging with me there. I'm so appreciative to everybody who sent in their story. And again, if you have your own that you would like to send, the instructions for how to do that are down below. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in my next one real soon.